Hey YouTube, welcome back to Love for Crypto. Okay, so leading on from yesterday's blog entry, we spoke about how XRP price was looking to settle to break above 53 cents, which it did do. I believe it spiked up to around 57 cents and automatically rejected that region to come back down and test support. I think we come as low as maybe 49 cents. Again, we've rejected that level. We sort of bounced back up at the 52 cents range where it's looking like it's wanting to stay at the moment. I haven't really got any further updates on that. I still do believe that we have got the bullish move to the upside to come, from this move. Again, obviously, I can't confirm that with certainty, and with probability that it will actually do what I have said it will do. If it can break through, I do expect it to test that 60 cents region, potentially even a little bit higher, before coming back down for the retest. So yesterday, through looking through certain blogs, Twitter feeds, come across Ryan Zagone at the Capitol Hill congressional hearing, where he had a lot to say in there, and I found it very, very intriguing in exactly what he was saying. For those who don't know who Ryan Zagone is, he is the head of regulatory, you know what I mean, head of regulations at Ripple. God, that was a tongue twister. I'm not sure why it happened, but it did. Anyway, moving forward. So yeah, so he's obviously said his piece at Capitol Hill, and I suggest you go and have a look at the video itself. It's very intriguing, especially there was a congressman that actually asked, they need clarification now, they need certainty, they need market certainty, in exactly explaining, potentially from the SEC and the CFTC, what is a currency, what is a security, and what is a commodity. So, the questions are being asked from as high as people in Congress now. They want regulatory clarity, basically, in order for foundations to be built around those regulations that are looking to be set in place. Ryan Zagone has basically said to him that during the dot-com era, the Americans gained a lot of the monopoly due to having that framework set out, which they haven't got at the moment in the US. And there is a lot of companies, startups, etc., moving away from the US because of how uncertain it is in a regulatory standpoint. So he has basically urged them, saying that they can still regain the power. The financial services, the finance sector itself, is a lot of it's USA based. Is probably the best way of putting it. You have a lot of sort of monopoly in that region. Obviously, I mean, the USA acts as the reserve currency of the world. It's fiat, the USD. Like 65% of the trade goes through that. But it seems very promising, and from obviously, maybe not have explained it the best way that I could have there, but Ryan Zagone is basically prompting Congress that in order for the US to still remain relevant in this space, they need to act now. They need clarification. They need to know what type of digital assets are securities, are commodities, and which of them are basically, currencies in itself. Again, we said this yesterday. FinCEN have claimed that XRP was a currency back in 2014. Again, I think this stick from the SEC waving this stick around about regulatory framework, etc. I think it's just being used as a weapon, basically, in order to suppress the markets. It might sound a little bit far-fetched, but it is. I can tell you with certainty that is exactly what it's being used for. It is being used in aid to help bring this market down. We've got the talk about BATs being released in November, and they said their futures contracts are going to settle with Bitcoin. So if you open, basically if you put $1 million into a futures, say a quarter future, quarter of a year, 3 months, then the returns will be paid in Bitcoin. So in doing so, that will help, with the futures from the CBOE, for example. They've been able to short the market. So this is for the example. So in the futures contract, CBOE, you could have opened a 1 quarter futures contract to say that the price of Bitcoin is going to go lower. And what will have been happening? These exact same people on Wall Street that would have shorted this during this futures will have gone to open markets and driven the price down. It's a double whammy, basically, for them, because not only are they receiving a payout from the futures, because the price has fallen to where they say it's going to say. They've actually been able to buy OTCs at that spot price. And now that's a great form of manipulation, and ever since the CBOE started the futures, we have seen Bitcoin obviously being punished from that. Again, it's not to say Bitcoin's going to fail. It is in fact to say that, hang on a minute, we can basically with a paper contract here suppress the price of Bitcoin by, you know, vast majority of Wall Street bankers, you know, hedge funds, whatever investors, are basically calling a short on the futures, going into the market, open market of Bitcoin, creating a sell-off. You know, as you've seen throughout the media, mainstream media, CNBC, you know, all sorts, MasterCard, banning crypto purchases, and they've driven the price right down. The spot price has come right down, and what that has enabled them to do is actually buy the physical asset itself, i.e. Bitcoin, over-the-counter trades where it's not affecting the price after they have driven the price down. So not only are they picking up Bitcoin on the cheap, they're actually being paid off in a futures contract for doing so. And that's how markets are suppressed. The same goes for silver markets, the same goes for gold markets. You know, a very interesting point here at the moment is the three markets that are being suppressed are gold, silver and cryptos. If you would have watched my documentary, you'll probably understand the correlation of why that is happening. Because it's usually basically in crisis events, i.e. stock market sell-offs, you know, bond sell-offs in you know, equity market. It's stuff like silver and gold, you know, for the past 5,000 years has been used as a hedge, you know, as a store of value. And obviously crypto is now moving onto the scene as a new asset class, which is also becoming more apparent that can be used as a hedge against an upcoming crisis. Then you can clearly see, you know, we've got the S&P, the Nasdaq, that screaming fucking tear. You know, all-time highs being broken time and time again. And obviously this is just all an illusion. Obviously, you know, if you was to cash out your stocks, you could do so. I'm not saying that at all. But what I am saying is, you know, every time that the Federal Reserve are printing out this money, you know, they're automatically propping up the bond market, putting it into the bond market, which then, in correlation, is flooding into the stock markets. You know, making the US economy, not economy, but, you know, stocks. Well, you could say economy if you look at the Dow Industrial and stuff like that. It makes it like America is absolutely shining bright against the negativity throughout the world. But again, you know, this is government money that is actually pumping. You know, it's a debt bubble with the stock market on top of it, which is hyperinflated. It really is, and it's going to come to a point where it is going to have to come down to fair value, meaning that there is going to be an extreme sell-off. And obviously, what will you use as a hedge? It's gold and silver. Now, if you can see why these prices are being suppressed, it's as if it is being lined up for a paradigm shift in regards to a sell-off in the stocks, going back into commodities, silvers, your golds, even Bitcoin. It's fair to say cryptocurrencies like XRP, Ethereum, you know, your top 10 are going to do well anyway over the foreseeable future. It's not just going to be one trick pony race with XRP, nothing else exists. It's far from the case. But you can see the correlation between the two. You know, you look at the S&P 500, you look at the Dow Jones Industrial, and you look at the Nasdaq, and yeah, I'm not calling the top here. I think it's still. I think the way that the Fed have printed up these markets, propped up these markets, and inflated it, I think they're still more than capable of doing so until that, obviously, the regards of printing actually comes to a halt, which I believe is going to be at the back end of next year, due to quantitative tightening. Then you really will start seeing these markets. There'll be no prop there. There'll be no artificial floor, if you want to call it, and they will fall straight through. And it will be the likes of your golds, your silvers, your bitcoins, your XRPs that will be used as a hedge as the economy comes on its arse. Is basically the best way of putting it. So yeah, in regards to that, so obviously, yeah, like I was saying with Ryan Zagone, I found that statement that he made absolutely eye-opening for myself. It actually gave me a lot of sense of feeling that I think we will be getting an SEC decision very, very shortly in regards to exactly what XRP is. Because as you can imagine, you know, the US, with all the regulatory uncertainty, you know, people are flocking away from the US. I mean, I'm from England, the UK, and Ryan Zagone actually quoted the UK being the fintech hub of the world now. It's got more, you know, people flocking in there, you know, in regards to Australia and Singapore, Japan and New York. The UK has more than those four combined because of regulatory certainty in the UK. And obviously the certainty is not there in the US. It's hampering the innovation to remain, and for people to want to stay in the US in order for them to make their developments for crypto assets. And without that clarification, you know, they're simply just flocking away from the US. And Ryan Zagone basically said to him, you know, it's basically a matter of we need to get regulatory certainty now before it is too late. And our congressman himself said, well, obviously, clearly we need to know then what our currencies, what our securities, and what our commodities. And, you know, being from such a high position of what it was in Capitol Hill in regards of the Congress asking for such details, obviously from the regulatory framework, the bodies in the industry around their frameworks, i.e. the SEC, the C, I forgot what it's called now, the Commodities Future Board, CFTC, that's it. Obviously I'm UK, as is the FCA, Financial Conduct Authority. There's quite a few different ones over in the States. You've also got FinCEN as well, but again, they've already, you know, there's been court hearings with Ripple in regards of the selling of XRP, and it was deemed a currency back in 2014. I find it highly unlikely that the SEC are going to try and overrule that hearing, contradicting themselves. You know, the amount of lawsuits that'll be filed through such a move will be catastrophic against FinCEN. I really can't see two US government bodies going head to head in regards of what a digital asset is. And I do, you know, you've got to ask yourself, Ripple have been working with regulators for years. Ever since they started up, they've always been on the side of the regulators, and, you know, they've been in close proximity with the SEC. The SEC's decision, you know, remaining open still to his XRP security, it is basically being used to suppress markets. You know, it really is. And if you can't see that, I recommend, you know, I mean, there's not really much recommendations, really. You either believe what you know, what you're hearing on the mainstream, you either believe into their narrative that they want you to believe into, or you can use your own brain and just think, you know, look, at the end of the day, we all know how much of a revolution this is. We needed to get a column, restrain this quickly before it spiraled out of control, you know, and that's where all the FUD come. We've seen the 30% sell-off from CoinMarketCap, which it appeared to look like it had a sell-off, but it wasn't. It just excluded South Korean markets. In turn, created that downward turn, the downward pressure, and we've seen it all fucking year with FUD. It's a tactical piece of weaponry which has been used in order for, you know, the Wall Street bankers to get on board with what's going to be. I mean, like I say, we've got NASDAQ obviously looking to start their crypto exchange trading desk in Q1 2019. Now, in order for you to operate a trading desk, you need what? Obviously cryptocurrencies. And in order to get cryptocurrencies, you're not going to buy them at an all-time high at around $3.80. You're going to absolutely use every sort of piece of or any sort of, you know, information, you know, mainstream media, SEC. You'll use everything as a combination to drive down the price, to bring that spot price down, so these institutions can buy OTCs over the counter at dirt cheap. They can stock up their exchanges, stock up their trading desks, like you've seen with we've got BATS and we've got NASDAQ now. I know we're only hearing about Bitcoin being offered, but I can assure you when this shit goes off, XRP will 100% be in there. As far as I'm concerned, XRP, or the word XRP, is being suppressed across the board. I don't think a lot of people, you know, everyone's using Bitcoin as a sort of look over here, but don't look over here at XRP, because you don't hear it yet, you know. It's the only real digital asset with real utility, is the best way of putting it. So, listen, it doesn't take a genius to work out what's been going on this year. The prices have been completely suppressed down to the floor while these institutions have been buying over the counter, where it's not interfering with the price at a spot price, you know, of a 90% retracement of where it was this time last year. As soon as the market's open, you know, you're going to have a flood of you know, institutional money coming through the front door, as well as retail money coming through the door. And last year's bull run is going to look like an absolute ant or grain of sand on the beach compared to you know, 2019, I'd like to say. I think with the XRP going live as well, with the real use case, it's, you know, onlookers by people who sat on the wall that are not committing to this market yet, you know, as a wait and see approach. I think as soon as they see XRP go live and it actually brings intrinsic value to the asset, then I think we're going to start seeing that buying come on thick and fast. Yeah, I could be wrong, but I'm highly confident that I am actually right in this. You know, I'm not trying to say I'm any market expert whatsoever, but all you need to look at is just what's been going on, and it is fucking crystal clear. It really is. So I think Zagone pressing Congress, pressing you know, for these governing bodies, i.e. the SEC and the CFTC, to come out with regulatory certainty. You know, i.e. Bitcoin is not security, it's a commodity. But, you know, no one said anything about XRP. They talked about Bitcoin, they talked about Ethereum. They failed to comment on XRP. And we all know in this space that XRP is the golden egg. If you think it is anything else, you need to honestly have a rethink and definitely do some more research, because, you know, XRP is the screaming buyout the entire bunch of digital assets, and if that's not apparent to you, I just don't know what to say. I really don't, because there's nothing else out there. It's either a dream on a piece of paper, or it's just an absolute farce, and best way of putting it is just a failed version of currency, i.e. Bitcoin. You know, I can see Bitcoin, you know, if you want to call it a store of value, but, you know, what it's set out to do is epically failed. It's unscalable. You know, you've got mining sort of dominance where they can control and dictate the fees per transaction. It's not a good currency at all. It really isn't, in my opinion. But it's nice to see that Ryan Zagone, I mean, like I say, you'll have to look for the link. If you just search for Ryan Zagone Capital on YouTube, I'm sure it'll come up in there. It's something that Bank XRP may potentially have on his YouTube, because he's really good with that sort of clean, crisp information, you know, unedited. Probably next to none for it, actually, in that fact. But you'll see it, and as soon as you watch it, you'll understand exactly what I'm on about. And with the certainty that Ryan Zagone is saying this, it's basically gone from the point of, you know, this could be a good thing. You know, he's talking about countries designing complete financial infrastructures around XRP, and obviously probably talking about Japan and SBI in that regard, for what they've got going on. A lot of people have wrote SBI off, but I think they're absolutely naive to actually be thinking in that way, really. I mean, if you've looked into the SBI research, you know, okay, yeah, they may have done a soft launch. The exchange isn't even open to the public yet in SBI. It's not even open publicly, so, you know, that just goes to show it's not even got order books yet. So people who are writing it off, as far as I'm aware, is you know, a little bit naive, really, and arrogant more than anything. But I can promise you this, people, honest to God, and the stars are aligning when I say this as well. Honestly, it's fucking magical. We'll probably get an SEC decision to say that XRP is not security within this year. We'll probably get, obviously we've got the swell. I'm not trying to say there's going to be announcements made there, but I'm sure there's going to be some progression and some very interesting points and speeches that'll be made there. On top of that, we've obviously got the release of XRapid going live. So we've got XRapid, we've got the SEC decision, which in my personal view will be made now before the end of this year. And then obviously we've got the likes of Bax launching their crypto exchange. Listen, the stars are fucking aligning, believe me. These prices have been manipulated down, as far as I'm aware now. You know, these the big money players, in my opinion, they're fully loaded up now with what they need. And I think the side, I'd like to say I've called the bottom. I've definitely called that firm bottom at 25 cents. I could be wrong again. Don't take it as financial advice, but the way things are looking at the moment, it's looking very, very, very pre-scripted. Is probably the way of putting it. You know, oh, let's drop out this SEC decision that Ripple's not security. Let's roll out XRapid with real-world utility. Let's roll out the New York Stock Exchange, well, Intercontinental Exchange. You know, for the new, you know, the mother company for the NYSE. You know, Bax. Let's roll out that in November. Listen, honestly, institutional custodian services are pretty much on the brink there now, and it's only a matter of time till all the galloping horses in Wall Street start running through these doors. The big players like the JP Morgans, etc., they've definitely got the bags full as far as I'm concerned now. I think the 90%, 93% retracement, in fact, for Ripple is more than adequate enough for them to fill them bags and make a tasty profit on the business model that they will be designing, which obviously is a crypto trading desk exchange. And you'll see it all from Citi, from, you know, Citibank, JP Morgan. You know, all these major banks eventually will be opening the crypto desk next year. It's laughable how scripted it really is. So yeah, it was just my little take for today, peeps.